Glenn Meredith in the foreground, the leader of the Australians. Goals from Steve Mortimer and Will Pickett, jump-starting a 2-0 advantage. The responses coming from Andrew Lay and Gakko Iwano for the Japanese. As we move to the second quarter, in this day 2 of the World Championships, all of it began an evening ago inside this stadium when the United States tripped up Canada.
Big win for the U.S. It puts them, it's a couple of things. One, you get a win over your most legitimate threat to your World Championship. But second, if you can continue to win, you stand in that 2 versus 3 game when it comes to the playoffs, and that could be either Canada or the Iroquois. And we mentioned, theoretically, there is a huge drop-off between the third team, which many consider to be the Iroquois right now, and your fourth team, which could be Australia, England, or Japan.
Matt Fuss on the interchange, exchanging with Alex Brown. Brown, Stiglish, and Hyde, the attack for Australia. This is Fuss, who is very fleet of foot. They like to invert him as he works in, dealing with the defense there of Mitsuhito Okabe. Throw back, switch the point of attack. Brown fakes the flip, headed to the cage. Chased down well there. Yu Yamaguchi with the long stick defensively for the Japanese. Fuss on the feed. Diver is next. Dodging Yamaguchi. Takahiko Shinohara barking out the defensive instructions for Japan. In the cage. Off the roll. And it's Shinohara with the stuff there on Pickett. A fine save at point-blank range.
Great stop. First possession for Australia in about 8 minutes, and they were patient. They found their matchup, but the inside roll is denied. Beautiful save by the Japanese netminder.
Okabe wheels it on back. He turned 36 just before the tournament began. Japanese 6-on-6. 2 minutes into quarter 2. Sugu feeding for Hatada and Sekine next in line. On the hesitation, the floating pass inside ricochets right to the goal where Tom Vickery was stationed, and Australia will look to clear.
Well, you're seeing right now the difference between the two teams is the physical size. Australia's relying more on one-on-one, trying to out-muscle, out-strengthen the Japanese defenders, where Japan is relying more on ball movement, passing, and off-ball cuts.
The rain, torrential downpours about an hour and a half ago, really took a lot of the starch out of the temperatures. This is a very pleasant playing condition right now for these two teams. We have seen no signs of bad footing whatsoever, and once again we remind you, in the last 90 minutes that field was underwater. The quick stick sent wide. Nathan Stiglish in his late 30s now, still an outstanding finisher. They look for him a big target near the crease. Strong ground ball play by Nigel Morton. There's a delivery, the bounce shot, big save! It was Stiglish looking to beat Shinohara, who just got enough of it. And the Japanese defenders come to close. Tomohiro Hoshi doing the honors. Looking for the quick counter. Oh, that's a strong defensive play made there, leaning in on the dive shot. And it was Ikagawa flushed out by Vickery. He was in the crease. The ball goes back to Australia.
Great end-to-end action, and that save by the Japanese goalie, I think you could attribute that not being a goal to the wet surface, as it got behind him and it just stopped dead in its tracks. Had that surface maybe been a little bit more dry, it may have skipped into the back of the net. But both goaltenders stepping up big when people are challenging them on their porch.
Mark, we're almost 4 minutes into the second quarter. No scoring in this frame. We remain 2-2. Australians looking to change that with Anson Carter. There's a quick stick. They cut so well. Stiglish was looking for that pass on the interior.
I like the cuts. They've relied mostly on one-on-one up to this point. They've got to get this Japanese defense moving a little bit. Yes, the Australians are a little bit bigger, probably stronger, but you just cannot continue to do the same thing all game long and expect a different result.
Stephen Mortimer, one of the tallies for the Aussies. He wears 13 in the goal. Lawyerson turns the corner and bangs it in. James Lawyerson just found that one with enough space to creep inside the post.
Lawyerson with excellent quickness from directly behind the goal, which we call X. Look at the strong approach and the quick stutter step, and Andrew Lay has got to do a better job playing midfield defense right there. Putting a stick in front of a player like Lawyerson and thinking he is not going to run through it is not the right approach. Great job by Lawyerson to get topside and stick Australia's third marker.
Masumi Gino will dig in on the draw now as we close in on the face-off X. Luke Keesing, his dad's the GM for this Australian side. And the FIL World Championships being played in Commerce City, Colorado. What, a 10-minute cab ride from downtown Denver? Passing play, looked for the inside. Follow-up score, it's Stiglish.
Great play by Stiglish. The first offering didn't get to the cage. As we're going to see from behind the cage, Hamilton on the initial shot doesn't get to the goal, but Stiglish, Johnny on the spot, great redirection. And there we're seeing the lack of physicality for Japan. If you're playing Canada, if you're playing the US, even the Iroquois, Stiglish ends up on his backside on that rebound as players clear the crease.
Mark, I saw Australia play in the Vail shootout recently, and one thing that they do like to do is have their long stick midfielders continue and advance into the offensive play. And Ross Hamilton was a perfect example of that there. It didn't work out for him, but it sure did for Stiglish moments later.
You love aggressive long stick middies because they make the defense play honest. And if you have a guy who can bring it and is not afraid to go to goal, it'll be a quick slide onto him, and it can free up some of your underneath players, which in that case, it was Stiglish who was unmarked, able to catch the rebound and redirect it into the cage.
Ozawa playing catch with Matsushita. A 4-2 advantage for Australia. Ozawa on the sweep, no running room afforded him. Matsushita rolls back into the channel, looking for a shooting lane. The Aussies have closed off and collapsed well defensively in front of netminder Tom Vickery. This is Ozawa on the split dodge. Sails that one wide. It'll stay Japan ball, backed up by Wataru Sugu.
Been a game of runs, 2-0, 2-2. Now Australia has the last 2 goals of the game. We'll see if Japan can respond. I love their ball movement and their off-ball cutting.
Just past the top of the hour, that was Mark Dixon. I'm Joe Beninati as we shout out thanks to all the men and women in our soggy technical crew battling through the elements during the afternoon and early evening here, just a little bit outside of Denver. We thank them for all their patience and efforts. It's been a long day, but a great day of lacrosse on ESPN3. We are watching play in the blue division. It's Australia on top of Japan. The nightcap to follow under the lights here at the stadium will feature England and the Iroquois, a game that a lot of people are pointing to for some fireworks offensively.
Well, when you talk about the Iroquois, the Thompsons, and you got Randy Stotts and Cam Bomberry, Cody Jamieson, I mean, it's just a litany of offensive weapons for the Iroquois nation. England, they're a team that has a number of ex and current collegiate players that have played in the States, so they seem to be much improved. And a goaltender that I'm told is the body double for Jack Black.
Ben McAllister, in his 4th World Games for England, he will tend the twine with Nick Anderton. For the moment, we keep our focus on Australia and Japan. 4-2 for the Aussies in gold. Good scoop there on the outside. That was Yu Yamaguchi. Getting help from Shinohara, and back come the Japanese quickly. Yuki Mizuta running ahead on the long pole. This one's cranked by Hoshi, stopped by Vickery.
Oh, tough call right there.
Mike Bransky is the lead official. He's from the United States. Daniel Arneson from England. Lee Bryan from Canada, wearing the zebra stripes on the field.
Looks like it's going to be another man-up opportunity for the Japanese. I'm not quite sure what the whistle was that stopped play initially, but on the follow-through, the Australian defender bulldozes the Japanese attackman. So the whistle was blown at this point. Yeah, good call. Defender did not pull up. Keith Nyberg had an opportunity to pull up, avoid contact, or at least try to hold the Japanese attacker up. He didn't. Knocks him to the turf. And it looks like we're going to have another man-up opportunity for the Japanese.
Nyberg's a 40-year-old, second oldest man on this team. Only Warren Brown, the backup netminder, the more elder statesman.
So it looks like, Joe, Australia is 2 men down. So there must have been a flag behind the play that we didn't see. That gives a second foul to Australia. So now 6-on-4 advantage for Japan.
They'll have to box it up defensively. It's the third extra man opportunity for the Japanese in the first 30 minutes of the game. Ozawa straight away off the head fake. Matsushita fires and scores. Ryu Matsushita.
The key to any extra man offense is ball movement, precision, and execution. Japan just does a great job of spinning the ball, getting it to an open, soft spot. And there you see the finish and the celebration by the Japanese.
Running time here in the second quarter. Clock continues to tick. Japanese getting the goal from Ryu Matsushita on the extra man. It's a 6-on-4 strike. The Japanese clawing their way back to within one. An Australian team that will square off with the United States tomorrow on ESPNU. That's 5 o'clock Mountain Time. We are at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, where it has been a jamboree, just a festival of lacrosse that only gets better and better. 142 games before it's all said and done in 10 days.
Well, I got here early before we did a Germany-Belgium game. Had a chance to watch New Zealand and Argentina. I mean, it was really wild to watch the Argentinians, a country that is competing for a World Cup championship in soccer tomorrow, take on the New Zealand team. Got to see the haka dance live. It was really exciting and emotional. Then Costa Rica was playing against Bermuda, which was fun to watch. And of course, we had Ireland and Uganda. And how about the Uganda squad scoring their first ever international goal to make it 17-1.
I was going to say, the only trouble was Ireland had 17 on the board by then.
You would have thought the Ugandans had just found the cure for cancer. They were celebrating like it was nobody's business.
It was a party. Callum Robinson, the big koala, comes out of there with the ball for the Aussies. A 6-on-6 offensive set for Alex Brown to negotiate. Whistle here, stopping play. There are a multitude of different rules in the World Championships as opposed to the collegiate game in the NCAA in the United States or Major League Lacrosse, the Outdoor Pro League.
Yeah, so one of which is when you have a foul, the time on the penalty does not start until the offender is in the box and seated. The other thing is penalty time runs. It's continuous. So in other words, when you score a goal, it is not released. So the player will have to serve the full amount of penalty. And some teams can get 2 face-offs, or a face-off at least, after scoring a goal in a man-up situation. No timer-ons, no clocks to clear, none of that here in international lacrosse.
Pickett going to the goal on that question mark dodge. He misfired. The follow-up, score! No, on the outside of the cage. Brown had me convinced he had turned Shinohara inside and out. Back come the Japanese. Working quickly there, this bounce shot. Vickery makes the save on Matsushita. Counterattack form for Brown. Pawns it off down the wing. We continue 6-on-6, more than halfway through quarter number 2. Lawyerson in no hurry, and from this perspective, back behind the cage, you can appreciate how the Japanese defenders get themselves coordinated.
You had mentioned the Japanese learning at the feet of Bob Scott. The tradition has been continued with exchange programs with UMBC, the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, a member of the America East, main rivals of Albany, and the Thompson brothers.
On the go, it's Fuss. Cross field on the delivery for Brown. That was a tough pass to catch. Taken up off the turf there by Yamaguchi. And the loose ball hold is going to give possession to Australia.
In the 2010 World Games, Japan had a combined penalty minute total of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That's how clean the Japanese play. So you could see the long stick was giving the official a look like, really, I held the guy?
On the split dodge, the bid from Diver deflected. Japan will take over. Beginning the clear casually, Yusuke Sahota. Shinohara in the goal. Both keepers have been busy in the first half hour plus. Vickery at one end, Shinohara at this end for Team Japan. Trailing by one, the lead strike for the moment belongs to Nathan Stiglish. On the dead run, working back behind, that's Sugu. With the knees, both of them heavily taped. Switch it up top for Iwanu, and then Lay against Callum Robinson, who gave him nothing down the alley. Hatada stopping and going. And it's a conversion for Shunki Hatada in acrobatic fashion.
Once again, the Japanese, look at the quickness of Hatada and the quick strike. He caught Vickery off guard as he thought he was probably going to take another step or two before unleashing that shot. But again, too casual of defense by Matthew Fuss behind the cage. This is the international level, boys. You got to get a stick on the gloves, push out, and get some contact on these Dodgers when they invert.
Shunki Hatada, a 20-year-old who plays at Waseda University. Face-off win for the Aussies, going right to the cage. It's Keating with a bounce shot, and that's denied by Shinohara. Keeping it a 4-4 draw as we leak below 6 minutes to go in the opening half. Ozawa to clear for Japan. Move it ahead to the long stick, Mizuta. And the fellow long stick with a fire and score on the conversion. A wicked drive from Yu Yamaguchi.
The Japanese in the slow break, which means they don't have numbers, but they do have position and opportunity. Yamaguchi recognizes no one is going to pick him up. We talk about long stick midfielders. When they come down with the ball, if you do things like Yamaguchi just did, you force the defense to slide to you, to respect you, and it opens things up for your underneath players. Yamaguchi, great decision, beautiful shot.
3 goals unanswered for the Japanese, giving them their first lead in this game. Australia leapt out to a 2-0 advantage. 4:50 with which to work in the opening half of play. Face-off man Gino going all the way back to Shinohara. Takahiko Shinohara, 36-year-old netminder for Team Japan, which finished 4th in the 2010 games. Remember, the Iroquois were not in that tournament. Visa issues, passport issues, immigration trouble. Their traditional passports were not accepted, and the Iroquois stayed home. Folks can see the Haudenosaunee Nation on ESPN3. Their game with England follows this matchup, now led by the Japanese in blue. Roll dodge. Matsushita has been very clever with the ball in this first half. Ozawa in tandem. They look to the inside. Good steal. A fine defensive play made there. John Takarua, who else? Wearing 24 this evening, not his traditional 32. Perhaps to honor John Grant Jr. of Canada. We don't know that.
Don't know for a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised. He's marked Grant Jr. on several occasions in the World Championships. Takarua, his 4th Australian national team. You equate that to the United States. I think of Vinny Sombrata, who played on 3, I think maybe even 4 U.S. national teams. Just incredible longevity.
Takarua is a huge lacrosse fan. Since he was about 15 years old, he's been buying tapes of college championships. His defensive hero is a pretty good player named Dave Petramala.
Heard of him.
Richie Meade's assistant for Team USA. The Americans and Canadians enjoying this day off after their skirmish last night opened the tournament. Off the roll dodge, Nigel Morton was upset. Stays in a rolling battle there with Hatakayama. Ooh, whoa, it's a high hit. Alex Brown managed to get through a couple of defenders. There's a flag on the turf, and the Aussies go extra man, you would think.
The ball left the restraining area, hence the whistle to kill the play. But I think Alex Brown is making sure he has all of his teeth after some of these checks.
Yeah, that's a chiclet check.
Little chin,
No doubt.
Little chin music. Japanese uncharacteristically losing control and discipline on those fouls.
Yamaguchi, the man who scored the leading goal, now has a seat in the penalty box. And once you sit down, the power play time starts. It's another peculiar little quirk of the World Championship play. It's the first extra man opportunity for the Aussies this early evening. They circle it up. Anson Carter is a man to watch, 22 in gold. He likes to pull the trigger from long range. Stiglish on the inside, of course, once they change the formation. A big target. This is a Whistler that's knocked away. Racing to the end line and earning himself the ball, the long stick defender, Yuki Mizuta.
A little bit of a mix-up right there. The attackman for Australia thought that the feed was going to come. Instead, it was a shot. As he swung around the front of the cage, shot went right by him, and the Japanese back it up. In the sport of lacrosse, on a shot, when the ball goes out of bounds, it's closest to when and where it goes out to earn possession. Whoa, look out.
The Japanese are looking to rag some time here. We hear a whistle blare out. Yusuke Sahota offers the ball to Lawyerson, who feeds quickly to the crease. Nice intercept. Good defensive play. The Japanese have been very quick to slide, recover, and get in the passing lanes at that end of the field. They try to enhance their lead. It's a one-goal advantage. The last tally coming from long stick midfielder Yu Yamaguchi. Wataru Sugu, who was dynamic in 2010. Bring it on the outside, working downhill. Stick check made on Tadahira, who tiptoes the line, but he's out of bounds, 11 in blue.
Just kept kicking it, and maybe the wet surface played a role in him not being able to pick it up, and as the ball kept skittering toward the end line here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park.
23 seconds in front of our halftime break. 15 ticks now as the Aussies go for the final offensive thrust. Another whistle and a timeout, because that's actually going to conclude the second quarter. If I understand correctly, was there a timeout called, guys, or was there the end of the half? Australia, by the way they're going through the classroom here on the chalkboard, they called for time, and they'll have time to operate before this first half's conclusion.
You're trying to tie this thing up before they go into break. We saw this in the Germany-Belgium game. Germany called a quick timeout at the end of the first half. We're not able to score, but hey, you got them, use them. And the Australians taking advantage of their two timeouts.
Aussies jump to a 2-0 advantage if you're just jumping on board with us. It was goals from Will Pickett and Stephen Mortimer. And they now have 18 seconds with which to work in this first half, looking to equalize after the Japanese have strung together three markers, Matsushita, Hatada, and Yamaguchi back to back to back. Working quickly behind the cage. Pickett wants the isolation against the short stick, Okabe. 4 seconds left. And Japan, with a sturdy defensive effort, will get one final flail, perhaps, as time expires inside of Dick's Sporting Goods Park. We're based in Commerce City, Colorado, about 10 minutes away from downtown Denver. It's been a huge day of lacrosse on ESPN3. For the moment, Japan has the 5-4 advantage as they lead in this one out of the blue division. Halftime to come.